Thank you, Don, for that wonderful setup. I'd like to start first by thanking all of you for coming today, and for the folks here in New York at PwC 300 Madison Avenue. But also I want to thank the folks that are out there. We have people following us on our live webcast from as far west as Mountain View, California at Google, and we're going as far east as Kazakhstan today. So a shout out to KNU, Kazakhstan National University. Next slide, please. Kayirili-kesh, which means good evening, because it's 6:30 there, and I believe they plan to be with us for at least the morning session. I think it'll be a little late for the afternoon. So we have an event. Well, first, before I go any further, I do want to thank our sponsors. I want to thank PricewaterhouseCoopers for not only being presenting sponsor, but also hosting this event in this beautiful facility. Also want to thank Johnson Controls and Bank of America Merrill Lynch. These types of events wouldn't be possible without the support of our sponsors. And as I like to say in Kazakh, rak kamet. Thank you. So, we put on what I think is a unique conference. This started last year, and my hope was to create a conference that really brought business issues to the fore around climate change and sustainability. And this year, in keeping our conference special and different, we decided, we'll throw delegates a cocktail party with hors d'oeuvres looking out over New York City before they had to listen to a single panel. So in that way, I think it makes us somewhat above the rest in that sense. But it's really about meeting new people. It's about encountering potentially new opportunities. But at the end of the day, it's really about new ideas. And I think that that's what this conference, The Heart and Soul, is about, new ideas. And last year, we framed around this idea of, is there a connection between, Moore's Law and what that did for the transformation of the semiconductor industry? Is there a connection there between thinking about a transformation into a sustainable economy? Since then, Moore's Law now has found this broader audience around sustainability and renewable energy. Strategy and Business Magazine will be publishing in their winter issue featuring this article that I wrote for them. So the point here is that what we discuss here actually is now being disseminated to more people through organizations like PwC and their clients, but also through publications and so on. So the word is getting out, and this event does have influence. So just a quick Moore's Law 101, and a lot of people have commented to me about the article that I wrote, and I think one thing that I really want to emphasize that might have been missing is that, in 1965, Gordon Moore said, I think that every year we're going to be able to double the number of transistors that we can fit on a computer chip. By 75, he wrote a paper, presented at the IEEE, and said, you know what, I've been looking at the technology, it looks like every 2 years we're going to be able to do this. And in 1975, Gordon Moore had a stature that was much higher and a profile much bigger than he had in 1965. And I think that's one of the reasons why a lot of people quote 18 months as the doubling, but Gordon Moore never said anything about 18 months. He said 1 year, and then he switched it to 2 years. So I don't know whether people just take the average of those two numbers and come up with 18 months, but in 75 he said 2 years. It's basically been every 2 years for 18 sequences of doubling. So just one more click on that, please. There is no way, and Moore would be the first to admit, there is no way that he could have understood the technology that would produce the latest doubling from 2009 to 2011, for example. He could not foresee the technologies or the changes that would be happening that far into the future. Yet, this continues to happen, and it continues to happen periodically and very apparently repeatably. It won't go on forever, but it has continued to happen. So it can't be that he had the knowledge that he was sharing 40 years ago. Something else is going on here, and that is a system was created around this. A system is basically nothing more than a grouping of, we got 3 builds on this, it's a grouping of interdependent parts in the service of an aim. Someone once said that if it doesn't have an aim, then it can't be a system. And if the aim isn't clear, then you can't optimize the system. Ultimately, it's about alignment of aims. And I think what Moore's Law was about was creating an aim for a burgeoning industry that created the alignment in service of that aim that produced what we understand as Moore's Law today and this dependability of the doubling. And it was this cycle of, what I call expectation driving investment leading to innovation. This is the Moore's Law cycle. And it has created a transformation. This cycle was, if we go back to the cycle, it's interesting because you might even think of this cycle as a cycle of continuous improvement. There's the famous Shewhart cycle, which became the cycle of continuous improvement, which is Plan, Do, Study, Act. And if you think about it, the plan part could be the expectation. The do is the investment, and then the study act is sort of the innovation part, and then it goes back into another expectation. This is all my thinking, and so I'm sure there are a lot of people who might disagree with it, but I think that this did create the transformation and innovation that we did see. And transformation is, what we're here for today. It's what we believe in. It's what we believe is necessary to create the type of economy in 40 years that's going to support a lot more people at a higher level of standard of living, but does it in a way that doesn't destroy the planet. So the thinking is, if we can understand a transformation that has already occurred, are there lessons in that we can take? And I believe that's the point of that article, is saying, well, maybe there are lessons from that transformation that we can take. And if we're going to talk about transformation, this is a person that I think we should be thinking about and understanding his ideas, because we need a transformation of management. We need a new way of thinking about management, and I don't think anyone had the bona fides of W. Edwards Deming on transformation. He actually sort of lived it and made it happen through what happened in Japan. And what happened in Japan was, and it's very interesting because it relates to some of the things that Don was talking about. What he really did was he showed that quality is not a cost, it's an opportunity. And that's sort of something we understand now sort of intuitively. But back then, and I can remember, even as a youngster, when people said, well, we can't afford to make things of that quality, we just can't do that. What he showed the Japanese industry was that quality actually drives sales and reduces cost. So these were two drivers. It does it over a longer term than doing things more cheaply in the short term. But that's the lesson that they learned from him that helped the transformation. And the other lesson that they learned was basically this idea of systems. Business as a system, a cycle of continuous improvement, constancy of purpose. And my phone is ringing. So this idea of systems thinking was critical to the transformation in Japan. And when you think about the problems that we are facing today, the real critical issues of the 21st century: energy, water, security, capital and development, agriculture, and climate. A lot of people have been working on these problems, but maybe one of the issues is that we're not seeing them, can I get another click, as systems challenges. And when you see them as systems challenges, you see the interdependencies and the interconnections between them. And that's what we have to really be doing when we're looking at these problems. How is energy related to climate, energy related to security, water related to energy, water related to capital, agriculture related to security and climate. All these things are interconnected. They have to be seen from that perspective. So in terms of today's discussions, I think I'm so excited about what we have on tap for today. First one is policy. And if you're thinking in systems thinking, policy doesn't become sort of this burden that government puts on industry to rein it in. Policy actually becomes an organizing principle. It becomes a way of setting the rules of the road so that you can innovate and you can actually, you know, sort of enhance business. When you think about Moore's Law, there might have been companies that could have doubled density in a particular period over a year. But they got together with their other competitors in this ITRS and said, you know, what's the best plan for us as an industry? And the agreement was, let's all do this together. Let's work on common problems and then compete after we've solved those common problems. So this idea of policy can be very much of a catalyst rather than a detriment. Then the panel on convergence. I think what we see here is that things that we thought were disparate and disconnected, energy, information, buildings, and transportation, I think what this panel is going to show us is that there's interdependencies between those because now the technologies that are driving them are coming together. So again, interdependencies within a systems framework. Then the financing of distributed generation. The takeaway for me from the systems perspective here is that public-private partnerships are going to be critical if we're going to get transformation in our energy sector. Yeah, we can have companies that go bankrupt and we can have these type of hiccups, but unless we have this public-private partnership that creates constancy of purpose, we're not going to be getting to the transformation that we need in the energy sector, and I think that's what our panel will be discussing. And then on co-creation, I think this is a terrific sort of a different angle from things that we took last year in terms of panel discussions. But if you're thinking about the interconnections and interdependencies in a system, the co-creation says these are the points of opportunity to actually achieve a great change in sustainability. And so I'm very looking forward to that discussion. And then finally, we're going to have a panel on a new economics. And it should be very exciting. And from a systems perspective, you know, Deming talked about businesses being systems, and then they're part of economies that are systems. But ultimately, the global economy is the most powerful subsystem of our planet. And if we go back to that alignment, if your subsystem isn't aligned to the aims and workings of the overall system, at best, you're going to have suboptimization, and at worst, you're going to have decay and the ultimate destruction of the system. So the idea is, how do we get that alignment of this sub-process? And that's what we're talking about. Do we need a new economics that doesn't look at resources as infinite and sinks as infinite, but looks at those as having limits and working around those limits? So I'm very much looking forward to today's discussions, and I think what we're going to do now is bring up the first panel, which is the panel on policy. Thank you very much.